Welcome into the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee. Today is Sunday, November 23rd, and as always, I am your host, Josh Newberg. We have gotten through 13 weeks of college football. I don't know how I feel about that. Kind of sad, actually, but it's getting exciting. Rumors are swirling about Lane Kiffin, flips, visits. We got a lot of recruiting to talk about today on the Inside Scoop. So, I was going to ask you to hit subscribe, but we're not doing that today. We're celebrating. Look at this. We got to 100K. Thank you, guys. It's only been about 2 seasons of following college football on this channel, and we are already to 100K. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hitting subscribe. And I said I wasn't going to do it, but hit subscribe to the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. Let's get this thing to 200K. All right. Today's show. We are going down to the Bayou. We're talking to Shea Dixon, LSU insider. He's got the latest Lane Kiffin intel. I also talked to Ben Garrett last night. Go find that video on this channel. It ran on Saturday night as a live video, but Ben Garrett gave a lot of insight into what Ole Miss is thinking when it comes to this coaching search. But on this show, we got Shea Dixon, Bengal Tiger. He talks LSU side of things. Also, Oregon intel after a big win over USC. We're talking Texas flip targets, and we got new SMU predictions. All this going on just a week until signing day. So big show. Let's get to it. We're on Kiffin Watch 2025 here and also on the LSU site. We got Shea Dixon from the Bengal Tiger. Shea, when it comes to these coaching searches, we're always trying to get information anywhere we can, including the message board, and you've had plenty of intel coming from your message boards already. But what about recruits? Is there anything to glean from this coaching search that you can get from talking with recruits?
I think relative, Josh, to who the next head coach will be, no. LSU is, since firing Brian Kelly a month ago, has sort of been in the headlines for a variety of reasons that seemed like avoidable reasons, right? And through the past week of the Kiffin search, 2 weeks, you would say, when things started to at least gain some traction in Baton Rouge, it's been quiet. That's a good thing. And I say that meaning that the search committee, the new president, Verge Osbury, the AD, everyone who's involved in it, which is a small group, is being tight-lipped. And I think that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. Even if they weren't tight-lipped, right, Josh? Even if they were leaking it to boosters, whomever it might be. I was told again last night, and I often repeat it, if you want to keep something secret, the last thing you do is tell a kid who's between the age of 16 and 18. It would just get out immediately. So the recruits are in a bit of limbo too, right? And you could say that's unfair. They don't know what their future is. We sit here talking now, Josh, the early signing period's in 10 days. And from speaking to the recruits, none of them are even really contemplating waiting until February's traditional signing day. They at least do think, based off conversations, that there will be resolution to LSU's coaching search by the end of the regular season, that it wouldn't have to drag out beyond that. And if that does happen, then they can sign with LSU knowing the direction the program's going. All that to say, they have 16 commits right now, and it's a low number. But most of them, the majority, are Louisiana kids. And the one thing that I've taken from talking to them, their parents, is that LSU has just really pushed LSU. Not a coach, not anything. It's, hey, this is a business. There's turnover. How many guys go to college and play for their position coach all 3 to 5 years? I mean, it's a lower number, it seems, each season as the pressure to win mounts. These administrations make changes. So the good news is that the built-in silver lining to having to navigate this and keep a recruiting class together at the high school level is all of these 80, 90% of the guys are Louisiana kids, and they want to play at LSU no matter what the coaching situation is, by and large. So one decommit so far, and that was D'Anthony Lafayette out of Florida. And he very honestly said, I don't know if my coaches will be there. I don't know who the head coach is. I'm committing to Miami, which prior to Mike Norvell getting reinstated, or I guess extended, or however you want to phrase it, not being fired, that was the one in-state Big Three school that has stability. So can't blame D'Anthony Lafayette for that. But LSU with the Louisiana kids, with border state kids, has only lost one commit in a month. That's not a bad run.
Yeah. And so as it stands now, we had Ben Garrett on last night. Nobody knows for sure. Like you said, you reiterated it. Ben Garrett reiterated it. But just the way that Lane Kiffin's handling himself, the deadlines that have been set, Ben doesn't feel like Lane Kiffin is returning to Ole Miss. Otherwise, things probably would have gone down a little bit differently. Why do we get the sense, we as the collective we, even the comment section as well, why do we get the sense that LSU is going to be the landing spot?
I think it's leaked out enough, and maybe, look, Ross Dellinger, who at Yahoo corresponded as well at On3, is about as tight in as it gets nationally, and he spent a lot of time down here in Baton Rouge on the beat. And he released those contract details of what they were finalizing, and obviously it's a big number, but when you're dealing with Jimmy Sexton, you don't get to go to the table if everyone's not matching numbers along the way. So I think remember a week ago, Florida had a lot of confidence. Then all of a sudden, the Kiffin family visits Sunday to Gainesville, but then Monday to Baton Rouge. And it felt like this past week, it was the LSU confidence. And that really sort of led to that skyrocket, right, of a little bit more of, is this really happening? When Kiffin meets with Keith Carter, Chancellor Boyce, and then they release a statement that, as you note, Josh, it sort of read like, hey guys, just support this team and don't boo the head coach for the next week, and let's try to win an Egg Bowl, make Ole Miss history. Then he'll let everybody know his afterwards. So I'm with Ben there. Like, yes, it's Lane. Yes, it's Jimmy Sexton. He could be back at Ole Miss, but the actions don't speak to that. I'm in a spot where, are we about to play this back and forth game between LSU and Florida for another week? Do we hear something sooner? Because I do know from talking to people behind the scenes who have had confidence, it would be considered sort of cautious optimism, because until you have something signed, nothing's done. And we know with Jimmy Sexton, he's not allowing his client to sign anything until they get the offer that they want. And if you have two schools going back and forth here, I understand why both sides have felt a little bit of cautious optimism moving forward, or moving through the past couple of weeks. So I don't know. I feel like I've gone back and forth, Josh, but everything I heard this past week, it was LSU out front. But we also don't know the decision yet.
Right. No, we don't. And also, let's dig into this a little bit more on the recruiting side of things. There's much been made about Lane Kiffin's approach to recruiting, or lack thereof. It kind of comes together in the end, and then also with the transfer portal. So is there any concerns, or how would Lane Kiffin in the Bayou look when it comes to recruiting?
I mean, look, this day and age, right, head coaches are not as involved in the minutia of recruiting high school kids as they once were, right? You've got such a big personnel staff beyond position coaches. You've got GMs. You've got NIL now, where a lot of that talk is now happening between your school's GM, agents, and the families. So it's the Kiffin, like, how does he impact recruiting? It wouldn't be viewed as, oh, he's going to hit the ground running like Coach O style. Like the next day he's in somebody's, what was it? The principal's office calling a D lineman in, and they were in a 3-point stance, and like he was teaching the kid technique and all of that. Like, we're beyond that, at least not Coach O, but with Lane. I think more so, Josh, with Lane, the LSU fan base, and it seems the same with Florida, is so excited, so high, so bullish on this idea of what Lane could do here, that if he's named the head coach, recruits see that. And it would be such a positive reaction that I think they would view it the same. So,
all right. So as we sit here and tape this on Sunday about midday, this will be almost 48 hours after the Egg Bowl. So is there a chance that a week from today, LSU fans could know whether or not Lane Kiffin's coming?
Of all the unknowns, I do think that the thing I feel most confident about is answering that question with a yes, right? I mean, Ole Miss releases a statement that says it'll be next Saturday. People, both in Florida and LSU, Gainesville and Baton Rouge, wonder, does it even last that long? Like, what is the the pushback from the Ole Miss side, if it is not them and they know it, that he is even able to coach through the Egg Bowl. Right now, we're expecting him to. There was the debate about the playoffs and him not being able to coach the playoffs. So all of that has started to line up to lead us to believe that, yes, next weekend we know Lane Kiffin's decision publicly. And I will say this. We've heard so much about Ole Miss, and now it's clear that they wanted a decision at least to be made and given to them so that they could pivot if need be. They're not the only ones. LSU has done the same. And I'm going to presume Florida is also doing the same, Josh, because you're getting to a point where if Lane drags it out further, what happens when your option number 2, your option number 3 gets hired somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like that was a talk around John Summerall and Ole Miss. If Lane were to leave and Summerall's in deep with Auburn, but Ole Miss is kind of interested in Summerall, how does that play out? So I do think that the combination of what I presume would be all 3 of these programs saying, let's get a decision in by next weekend does come to fruition. And by this time next week, we probably have either a leak, an announcement,
right,
a press conference, something to where we know Lane Kiffin's future.
All right, LSU fans, let's hear your predictions. Put it in the comment section below. Next Sunday, will Lane Kiffin be the next head coach at LSU? Will he be remaining at Ole Miss, or will LSU be moving on to their next target in the coaching search? You guys break it down for us. Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk some Oregon recruiting because the Ducks are coming off a 42-27 beatdown of rival USC on Saturday. And the Oregon recruiting rumors after a big weekend in Eugene are swirling. So we're going to bring in Max Torres. We're going to break it all down. But before we do that, Duck fans, hit subscribe to the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, the Rivals Recruits channel. All right, let's bring in Max Torres of Scoop Duck. And Max, one game, it doesn't mean everything, but what did Oregon gain from beating USC handily on Saturday?
I think you can start with any one of these rivalry games, right? Bragging rights. I think that that's something that is certainly at play here. Some of our readers were saying, hey, I don't know if USC is a rival. It's Washington, it's Oregon State, but certainly a rivalry in my eyes and in the eyes of many on the West Coast. So I looked it up, and USC hasn't beaten Oregon since 2016. So top recruits, many of them in Southern California, that Oregon finds themselves going head-to-head against USC for, it's becoming more of a distant memory the last time that the Trojans defeated the Ducks on the field. So I think it does start with bragging rights. You look at some of these young guys that were seeing the field in this game, a continued theme throughout Oregon's 2025 season. That's another thing that I think is very appealing to recruits. And you get another big win on the national stage. I mean, it wasn't a primetime kickoff. College Game Day was in town for the second time this season, so you capitalize with a lot of eyes on you. And then I would also say a head-to-head win between Dan Lanning and Lincoln Riley, who both got hired at their respective programs the same year. And you see the success that Oregon's having, the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, I thought a lot of great pub, not just for Dan Lanning, but also just the program in general. Dan Lanning reiterating that this is where he wants to be for life. You know, it wasn't too long ago where Oregon wasn't a place necessarily coaches thought they could see themselves for life. I mean, Mario Cristobal, Willie Taggart, but now Dan Lanning certainly planting his flag out in Eugene. And when it comes to the 2025 season, though, how has the usage of freshmen, really on both sides of the ball, impacted what you hear back from recruits?
They love seeing it. It's a talking point continually when I ask about, hey, what did you think about what you saw from this game when you were there? Or what do you think about what you've seen from the Ducks this season? And that's a pretty common refrain, is they're playing young guys. And it's become a bit of a cliche in these Lanning interviews and press conferences that I cover, where Lanning says, if you're good enough, you're old enough. But week after week, Josh, we're continuing to see it. Young players, some of them that just started their college career a mere months ago, are making huge plays. Jordan Davison is probably one of the most notable, incredibly effective. I think he's up to 13 or 14 rushing touchdowns, closing in on an Oregon freshman record. And you also have Brandon Finney Jr., who I would probably say is the best true freshman cornerback in the country. And that's a continued talking point every week when I'm covering this team. So it's definitely resonated in Oregon because guys want to know that they have a chance to play early. Not that they're promised a spot, but that if they show up and they compete and they execute, they're going to get a chance.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, Oregon signs about 25 in the freshman class. Only a handful actually get to see the field. So, but it's great to see these guys taking advantage of those opportunities because they're not just playing. I mean, they're playing meaningful minutes, meaningful snaps, and it's great to see recruits also taking notice. So, when it comes to recruits on campus over the weekend, who were the headliners?
There were a couple of headliners. I think one that I would start with, if you just want to look at the 2026 class, he's actually going to be getting on campus today because he's coming off of another official visit, and that is 2026 athlete defensive back Azel Banag. Hopefully I'm saying his name properly, but he is a recently offered prospect for the Ducks here in the 2026 class out of South Carolina. His father played with Chris Hampton, Oregon secondary coach, in college. So this looks like it'll probably be his last official visit before the early signing period. He might make it out to South Carolina, but that is a name that we're tracking here because Oregon would love to add another DB to this class. So he actually gets to Eugene today. But aside from him, you're looking at a lot of big names in the 2027 class. Former Oregon wide receiver commit Keyshawn Bowman out of Nashville was on campus for his first game day visit to Oregon. Rashad Streets, a four-star edge rusher out of North Carolina, was there. And then two more that I would probably say, you have linebacker Caden Henderson out of Tampa, Florida. He got to take in an Oregon game, as well as four-star cornerback Josiah Molden, who is the top in-state prospect for the Ducks in 2027 and an Oregon legacy. So maybe not the heaviest group of visitors in the 2026 class. That's kind of where we're at right now in the cycle. But, man, it's huge names on campus for the 2027 class that the Ducks would love to add.
Yeah, beautiful. Get to see a big rivalry win at that. So when it comes to recruiting, we know Dan Lanning loves a good signing day surprise. Throughout the cycle, we've talked about flip targets being Havon Finney, Caden Dixon-Wyatt, but I mean, it kind of seems a little quiet, relatively quiet down the stretch for the Ducks. Who do you think Oregon fans need to keep an eye on? Inside Scoop listeners, we got to talk game time because the NFL season is underway. College football rivalry week is here, and who doesn't love to see their favorite NFL or college team in person, especially when you can go with a bunch of your buddies. But guess what? Tickets aren't easy to find, and getting deals on those last-minute tickets, it can be frustrating when all you want to do is be there for the moment your team runs out on the field. Well, thankfully, the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It is the hack for unlocking amazing ticket experiences, and it only takes a few simple clicks. The app's easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means that you can trust that you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. You can even get into an NFL game for as low as $100. That's why I use the Game Time app. It's super simple, and it makes the experience of buying great seats a breeze. Also, one of the coolest features I've seen is the Game Time lowest price guarantee. It's when Game Time will credit you with 100% of the difference to guarantee you're getting the lowest price if you can find cheaper tickets elsewhere. All right, here's what we're going to do. You're going to download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code INSIDESCOOP. That's promo code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's Inside Scoop for $20 off Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Yeah, we were talking about this one a little bit off air, Josh. There's a bunch of names that I could throw out where I think it would make sense if they ended up committing to Oregon, but it's a little bit quiet right now, and there's not a lot as far as on-record interviews with some of these flip chances. So you mentioned a couple of them there. Caden Dixon-Wyatt is one of them. If you want to stay at modern day, the Ducks would love a Chris Henry Jr. and the Ducks would love a Tamuhini Tapoy. They're still looking for some reinforcements along the interior of that D line. I think Tom is certainly one that would make sense because he was committed to Oregon after all, but has been all SC since he committed to the Trojans and they pulled off that flip. I think Assad Chapman, a junior college cornerback that visited Oregon last week, is certainly one that you would keep an eye on here. He's got a couple more trips scheduled, but he did tell me when I interviewed him after that Oregon visit that the Ducks really set the bar high, and he was kind of going to have to take a step back and see which schools he really wanted to get out to. So I think he would probably be the one that I'm the most confident in joining this Oregon class right now. It's not a prediction, but the one that I could see coming in. And then you also have to keep an eye on Tavian Branch, a 3-star defensive lineman out of Pennsylvania that was committed to Penn State for a while, but had finally made the decision to decommit following James Franklin's departure. Looks like Ole Miss might be in the driver's seat, but the Ducks finally offered him this week, and They were trying to get him out for this game, but I think the timing of the kickoff obviously didn't help them getting him all the way across the country. So those are some that I would watch. Maybe Viliami Moala is another North Carolina defensive line commit that was formerly committed to Oregon. But knowing Dan Lanning and having covered this program for a while now, I think that he's good to pull the bunny out of the hat, rabbit out of the hat, maybe have some fireworks here, at least one or two guys.
All right. Well, it's coming down to the stretch for Oregon fans. Talk to us. Who is your top flip target, and how you feeling coming off that win over USC? Put it in the comment section below. Let's talk Texas recruiting, because the Horns are tracking for multiple flips. We are just over a week from signing day, and Texas is going to add more. Over the weekend, they beat Arkansas in convincing fashion, 52-37. Official visitors were on campus, and flip rumors are swirling. We're going to break it down with national analyst Sam Spiegelman, but before we do that, Texas fans, do me a favor. We love talking Longhorn recruiting, so jump on board, hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel. All right, let's bring in Sam Spiegelman and blue chip defensive lineman Jamarian Carlton pop back up on the 40 acres. Second unofficial visit here in a row. No Texas Tech is also involved here. He's committed to Baylor, but who's it really in the running to sign Carlton?
Yeah, listen, this is Texas versus Baylor until National Signing Day. From speaking to sources leading into this visit, there was confidence in Waco that Jamarian Carlton would stay with Baylor if they, established Dave Aranda was going to be back for next year. They got that news on Friday, and Jamarian Carlton played a basketball game and then was on the 40 acres on Saturday morning for a full day of visits, his second visit in a row to Austin. There is a lot of smoke behind the Longhorns, as they were a favorite for a long stretch of this recruitment, and again down the stretch they have a lot of life. There's a lot more uncertainty in Waco about Carlton sticking after this visit.
Yeah, really interesting. Things are heating up. Now, this is also interesting because we know Texas' offensive line has struggled, and this week Kyle Flood put out a new offer on the offensive line. Stanford offensive tackle commitment Caden Scherer now holds a Longhorn offer. What are the chances Texas can flip him just a week out from signing day?
Yeah, I like where this is heading for Texas. I don't think it's a done deal just yet. Caden Scherer put a pin in his recruitment a couple of weeks ago after Virginia and really TCU were working to flip him away from his Stanford commitment. He was very excited about the future in Palo Alto. Andrew Luck has played a large role in recruiting him out west. But the offer from Kyle Flood has made a significant dent in his recruitment. He was back on campus this weekend. Kyle Flood was at his school a couple of days ago. There is a lot of momentum in the Longhorns' corner midway through this official visit. I think with National Signing Day so close, it's going to be hard for Texas, who is desperate for reinforcements along the offensive line, is a priority position for them down the stretch. I like where this is heading with Caden Scherer at the moment.
Gotta love those late offers in the recruiting process. Talk about late. I mean, here we are 8-9 days from signing day, and he has a whole new world to think about. So that being said, what other buzz are you hearing when it comes to Texas flips?
Yeah, they have a host of blue chippers on campus, like you mentioned, official visitors, flip targets. They have a pair of blue chippers committed to LSU on campus. Number one defensive lineman in the country, Big Rich Anderson. I think for the most part, he is likely to stick with the Tigers. But the other recruit back on campus, Rivals 300 tackle, Bryson Martinez. I'm told that of the two LSU commits on campus, Texas has the better shot of flipping Bryson. We'll see if LSU is able to name a head coach before signing day, but this is a storyline that we're certainly monitoring, with Martinez making his second visit to Austin this month. And then, of course, there's Caden Scherer's teammate, Jet Walker, big physical running back that, again, landed an offer in the last few weeks, recently flipped his commitment from West Virginia to Minnesota. I think the Longhorns are making it very obvious that they would love to have him as part of this class. And like Scherer, I think it's looking likely that he ends up inking with Texas from what I've gathered so far.
Yeah. All right. What about the other direction? Is there anybody on the Texas commit list that you would tell Texas fans, hey, keep it on? I mean, I think for the most part, it seems like this class is going to stick together maybe 100% between now and signing day. But is there anybody you're watching?
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on Max Wright, one of their top offensive line commitments out of the Dallas Metroplex. He was back at SMU over the weekend for the second time in the last few weeks. He was an early commitment for Kyle Flood and the Longhorns, and he will be back in Austin next week for the big one against Texas A&M on the 40 acres, and he'll have a final decision after that visit. But he is back on the hilltop for the second time this month, and things are definitely trending in a good direction for the Mustangs there. Texas is looking for reinforcements along the offensive line and potentially a successor to replace Max Wright in the class.
All right, a lot of drama in the trenches as we head to signing day. Love it. Now, what about 2027? There's a lot of visitors on campus. What intel do you have coming out of the weekend?
Yeah, Texas has always been one of the mainstays with elite wide receiver Julian Caldwell. I think he's the number 9 receiver in the Rivals 300. An early offer for Steve Sarkisian and Chris Jackson in the 27th cycle. He was back on campus. We know that he's been to Oregon and to A&M and Oklahoma and Texas Tech. But I think the Longhorns reestablished themselves either at or very close to near the top with this visit. His entire family was in Austin for this one, his second time there this fall. I like where the Longhorns sit long-term in this race. And now I believe that Texas is leading the way for Rivals 300 edge Cameron Hall. That was his second visit again to Texas this year. He's been to A&M, he's been to TCU, he's been to Baylor. That visit, 52 points, a devastating pass rush, really intrigued Cam Hall. He said he felt like he is the number one priority for them in the 27th cycle at the edge position. And I like where Texas is sitting on top with Cam Hall moving forward.
Sounds like it was a great weekend for Texas recruiting. Longhorn fans talked with me and Sam about these flip targets down the stretch. Who do you think Texas adds between now and National Signing Day? Put it in the comments section below. We're talking SMU recruiting as the Mustangs dismantle the Cardinals 38-6. And next week, if they beat Cal, they can punch their ticket to the ACC championship game. And at the same time, Rhett Lashley is looking to land a top 20 class this cycle. Going to need some help. It could be some flips down the stretch. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. There are flip rumors galore. We got national analyst Sam Spiegelman to break it all down. But first, SMU fans, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruiting channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. Jump on board, hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Sam Spiegelman. Now, Sam, SMU currently sitting at number 27 with 21 commitments, room for more in this class, and we are hearing about some flip rumors. What are you hearing? Who's trending to SMU as we speak?
Yeah, it's been a big weekend on the hilltop over there. Another signature win for Rhett Lashley and the Mustangs. We know they beat Miami at home to start the month, dismantled Louisville in front of a ton of top recruits who were back for this game. That includes Max Wright, the Texas Longhorns offensive tackle commit from Melissa right there in the Dallas Metroplex. Took an official visit to SMU this weekend instead of going down to Texas. And there is some real traction for the Mustangs here to potentially pull off this flip. I know that not only is Garen Justice leading this for SMU, Rhett Lashley is involved, and so are a host of this SMU offensive line commits in this class. They have a crew of very highly offensive line commits already on board, and they want Max Wright to stay home and be a part of it. And things are trending in that direction as we speak. He will head back to Texas before he makes a final decision. SMU also hosted Alabama 4-star commit Samuel Utu. Things are definitely trending in a great direction for SMU there. Myself, my colleagues, Steve Wilfong, Greg Biggins, Adam Gorney, Chad Simmons, we all have predictions for SMU to pull off this flip. They are looking to bolster their offensive line class. Like I said, it's already a group of really highly ranked, highly intriguing offensive line prospects. And Samuel Utu, Max Wright may be the next to join the fold.
All right. Well, SMU having another great season, and as they vie for the ACC championship, Sam, we kind of know recruiting lags a year, right? Like if you have a great year this year, it's going to affect the next class, not the current one. So when it comes to 2027, who were the big names on campus this weekend that SMU is making a priority?
Yeah, they had a ton of 2027 prospects back on campus, and we're starting to see a theme with who's returning in September, October, and then again in November for these big games. I recently changed my prediction to SMU for Amari Vickerson, one of the top defensive linemen in the 2027 class in Texas. Both myself and Steve Wilfong had Texas Tech on top earlier this season, but SMU has come on strong, and I think they made a significant move to the top with Amari Vickerson after this visit back to town. Mm-hmm. He was at A&M last weekend, and it was shaping up to be a 2-team race. I think we give the edge to the Mustangs moving forward. We also logged predictions for J.J. Fields out of Hutto, a talented safety on the top of SMU's board. Logged a prediction for Alex Herrera, talented offensive tackle prospect from right there in Fort Worth. And also logged a prediction for Braylon Williams, another talented linebacker from the Dallas Metroplex. SMU 2027 recruiting is not only on fire in Dallas, but across the state of Texas right now.
When you talk to these guys, you're out pounding the pavement at these schools. What's the response when it comes to SMU and the success they're having under Rhett Lashley?
They love Rhett Lashley. They love the staff that he has assembled over the last few years. The fact that they jumped into the ACC, the fact that they made the college football playoff a year ago and are again tracking to potentially play in the ACC championship game. I think kids love the idea of staying home, and if they can just stay in Dallas and compete for the hometown team, that's great. And when you add the fact that they're now a Power 4 team with conference and playoff chances each and every year, they love the ability to do that for their hometown team and still have the ability to win big games and potentially get drafted.
What an exciting time for SMU fans. Talk to Sam and I. What do you guys think about the season? What do you think about recruiting? Can Rhett sign a top 20 class this cycle? Let us know. Comment section below.